You never lose the people who truly love you. You only lose the ones who were pretending. And yet, here you are, still holding on, still hoping, still waiting for them to wake up and realize what they had before it's too late. But let me tell you something. They already know. They just don't care. You think this is love. The constant anxiety, the overthinking, the feeling like you're never enough no matter how much you give. That's not love. That's emotional starvation. That's you clinging to a ghost, mistaking their occasional breadcrumbs for a feast. Let me tell you what real love is. Before we go any further, hit that like button, and while you're at it, subscribe. Because what's coming next isn't just a video, it's a shift in your entire mindset. Real love doesn't have you begging for attention. Real love doesn't leave you waiting, wondering, or questioning if you matter. Real love is clear, it's loud, it's undeniable. Do you want to know what love looks like? Let's talk about true love stories. When Barack Obama met Michelle, he didn't make her guess where she stood. He pursued her, respected her, and showed up for her. He didn't make her prove her worth. He already saw it. Decades later, through power, fame, struggles, and victories, he still looks at her like she's the best thing that ever happened to him. You must know the great Justin Bieber and Hailey Baldwin. When he was lost, when the world had written him off, she stood by him. And when she had doubts, when she needed security, he made sure she never had to question where she stood. No games, no breadcrumbs, just a man who knew he had something rare and treated it that way. Now, look at your situation. Look at how much effort you've given to someone who can't even send a good morning text without making you wonder if you're too much. Does that sound like love to you? No, that sounds like a joke. And yet, you're here convincing yourself that if you just try harder, if you just give them a little more time, they'll finally see your worth. They won't, because the truth is, they already know your worth. That's why they keep you around without ever committing. That's why they love the attention, but don't give you the relationship. That's why they disappear for days and expect you to be waiting when they return. But what happens when you're no longer there? What happens when you suddenly vanish, when your calls stop, your texts go silent, and your presence is gone? That's when they panic, because up until now they've had the power. But the second you detach, the game flips. Suddenly they're the ones wondering, they're the ones checking their phone, and they're the ones feeling the ache of uncertainty. So disappear, detach, destroy. Because when you walk away, you're not just leaving them, you're leaving behind the version of you who tolerated this, the version of you who settled. And in your absence, they will feel the loss in ways they never expected. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about games. This is about power. And today, you take yours back. Write it in the comments. I choose myself. Because the second you do, you become the one they can never replace. And we're just getting started. Next up, we're diving into the psychology behind why silence breaks their ego faster than any argument ever could. Stay tuned. This is where the real shift happens. 1. Disappear. Make them feel the void they once left you in. The fastest way to teach someone your worth is to remove yourself from their life. You want to know what real power looks like? It's not arguing, it's not begging, it's not proving yourself. It's simply disappearing. It's walking away without a word, without a fight, without an explanation. Because the moment you do, the real battle begins. Not for you, but for them. They didn't notice your presence because you were always there, answering their calls, responding to their lazy texts, holding space for them while they gave you nothing in return. And now you become a ghost in their world. The moment you vanish, the moment your name stops lighting up their phone, the moment they realize you are no longer accessible, that's when the panic sets in. Imagine this. You walk into your favorite coffee shop every morning without fail. Your coffee is waiting for you, perfectly made, exactly how you like it. You never think twice about it. It's just there, reliable, expected. But one day you walk in and it's gone. No explanation, no warning. The shop is closed, the doors are locked, and suddenly that thing you never appreciated, now it's all you can think about. That's you. When you were always available, always answering, always waiting, they took you for granted. But the second you disappear, the second your silence replaces your presence, you become the only thing they can't stop thinking about. But here's where most people mess up. You're afraid to leave, afraid to vanish, because deep down you think if you disappear, you'll be forgotten. You think if you stop trying, they'll just move on. And let me tell you something. That's the biggest lie you've ever told yourself. People don't forget the ones who made them feel something. And you made them feel comfortable, safe, admired, and important. You made them feel like a king while they treated you like a servant. Now it's time to flip the roles. The moment they realize you're actually gone, the moment your name stops appearing in their notifications, the moment your energy is no longer something they can drain at will, that's when their ego starts to collapse. They'll act like they don't care at first. They'll pretend they didn't notice. Maybe they'll even post something hoping you'll react. Don't fall for it. They're testing the waters, trying to see if you're still within reach. Stay silent, stay gone, and then the real fear begins. They check their phone more than usual. They scroll through old conversations. They go to message you, but something stops them, maybe pride, maybe uncertainty. But the seed of doubt has been planted. They start wondering, did I push them too far? Did I take this for granted? Are they moving on? Let me make this clear. You don't disappear to manipulate. You disappear to reclaim your worth. Because here's the truth. If they cared, they wouldn't have needed to lose you to realize it. And if they didn't care, then disappearing won't change that, but it will set you free from chasing someone who was never yours in the first place. This is about power. This is about making them feel the void they once left you in. And I know what you're thinking. What if they don't reach out? What if they never come back? Good. Let them stay gone, because the ones who never reach out were never yours to begin with. They were just taking up space, keeping you in limbo, holding you hostage in their world while they explored other options. They were never afraid to lose you, because you never gave them a reason to be, until now. The hardest part is not breaking the silence. The urge will come, the need to check their social media, the temptation to just send one message, the desperation to see if they even noticed. That's the weakness they were counting on. That's the moment they win. Don't give it to them. Silence is your weapon. Distance is your power. Because when you refuse to play their game, they lose control. And trust me, they will feel it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, when they least expect it, they'll reach for you and you won't be there. That's when they'll realize the one person who always cared is gone, the one person who always answered is silent, the one person who made them feel important is out of reach, and that realization will destroy them. You don't need revenge, you don't need closure. Your silence is both. So here's what you do now. Nothing. No texts, no calls, no accidental Instagram story views, no comments, no presence. Erase yourself and let them sit in the same emptiness they once left you drowning in, because this time they're the ones gasping for air. Write this in the comments. I choose silence over begging. Show yourself, show them, show the world. Because today you step into your power. Today you disappear. And next, we go even deeper. Now that they're feeling your absence, we make sure they feel something even worse, the loss of your emotional presence. Stay tuned. This is only the beginning. 2. Detach emotionally, unplug, and let their ego crumble. Nothing destroys a person's ego faster than realizing the one they thought would never leave is already gone. They thought they had you. They thought you'd always be there waiting, hoping, reacting. They expected your emotions to stay tied to them like a leash. That's what gave them power. That's what made them feel important. Because as long as you cared, they won. But now you detach. You remove your emotions from the equation. Their words become empty noise, their presence meaningless, their attempts to provoke action ignored. And that's when their ego starts to crumble, because nothing terrifies them more than your indifference. Imagine this. A performer steps onto a stage expecting a crowd, expecting applause, but instead, silence. No cheers, no reactions, no energy to feed off, just an empty, lifeless room. Suddenly, they're powerless, because what is a performer without an audience? Nothing. That's what you're doing. You're leaving the stage. You're taking away their audience. The validation they fed off, gone. The reactions they thrived on, non-existent. And that's when they feel it. The sinking realization that the person they once controlled no longer gives a damn. They'll act unbothered at first. They'll pretend it doesn't faze them. But behind closed doors, they're checking their phone, replaying old conversations, scrolling through your social media, looking for signs that you still care. And when they find nothing, that's when the panic sets in. Because here's the truth. They didn't want you. They wanted control over you. They didn't respect you. They just liked knowing you were an option. They enjoyed watching you stay attached while they remained detached. But now you flip the script. You stop caring. You stop reacting. You stop making them feel important. And now they're the ones drowning in uncertainty. This is why detachment is the most brutal move you can make. It doesn't require arguments, ultimatums, or emotional pleas. It just requires you to stop feeding their ego. Because when they can no longer affect you, when their mind games fall flat, when their absence doesn't break you, they lose all power. And I know it's not easy. You spent so much time believing that if you just held on a little longer, if you just proved yourself a little more, they'd finally see your worth. But they won't, because the second you have to prove your value to someone, you've already lost. So let me ask you this. Are you really willing to keep being their emotional puppet? Or are you ready to cut the strings and walk away like they never mattered? Because the moment you do, you become the one thing they can never have again, and that's what will destroy them. Write this in the comments. My silence is my power. Because today, you stop being a pawn in their game. Today, you detach. And next, we take it even further. Now that they feel your absence and can't shake the emptiness, we move to the final blow, when they finally realize how much they miss you. Stay tuned. This is where they break. 3. Destroy. When the realization hits that they miss you like hell, the worst pain isn't losing someone, it's realizing you'll never get them back. That's exactly what they're about to feel. At first, they brushed it off, thought you were just in a mood, playing hard to get, thought you'd come running back like you always did. They were so sure they had you wrapped around their finger that they didn't even take your silence seriously. But now the cracks are showing. They're checking their phone more often than usual, waiting for your name to pop up. They go to type a message but stop because they don't want to seem weak. They stalk your social media, searching for any sign that you still care. And when they find nothing, that's when it starts to eat them alive. Because here's the truth, they never expected to face the reality that you were their security blanket. No matter how little effort they gave, no matter how many times they ignored you, you were always there. And now you're gone. No texts, no calls, no reactions, just silence. At first, they'll try to convince themselves that they don't care. They'll distract themselves, go out, maybe even post something casually hoping you'll see it. But the emptiness creeps in, and suddenly what used to be fun feels hollow. Because what they don't realize until it's too late is that it wasn't just your presence that mattered. It was the way you made them feel, the way you made them feel important, valued, like they were the center of your world. And now that feeling is gone, and this is when the real suffering begins. They wake up expecting a message that isn't there. They check their notifications, hoping for something that never comes. Every time their phone buzzes, for a split second, they hope it's you, but it's not. It never is. And that's when the pride they once held so high starts to crumble. Because the thing about people like them is they never think you'll actually leave. They never think you'll actually move on, until one day they realize they've lost something irreplaceable. And trust me, they will try to come back. First, it'll be small, a random text, a meme they think will make you laugh. Hey, hope you're good, as if they didn't spend months treating you like an afterthought. But when you don't respond the way they expect, the desperation kicks in. They'll call, they'll text more, they'll accidentally bump into you, and for the first time, they'll feel exactly what you once felt: uncertainty, doubt, rejection. Because they don't know where they stand with you anymore, and that terrifies them. They thought they had forever to make up their mind. They thought you'd always be an option waiting on the sidelines. But you're not an option. You're the one thing they can never have again. And that's what destroys them, because regret is heavier than rejection, and they will carry that regret for a long, long time. You might be thinking, will they actually suffer? Will they really miss me? Yes, because nothing stings more than watching someone you once controlled become completely untouchable. And when they finally realize that, they'll do anything to undo their mistakes. But by then, it's too late, and you won't even care. Write it in the comments. I am the loss they will never recover from, because today you become unforgettable. And next, we step into your rebirth. Now that they're breaking, it's time for you to start building. Stay tuned. Your glow-up is next. 4. Rebuild. Become the one they'll always regret losing. The best revenge? Become the person they were never strong enough to handle. They expected you to crumble. They thought you'd sit there broken, waiting for them to return. They were so sure that without them, you'd stay stuck, dwelling, missing them, replaying old memories, hoping they'd come back. But now you rise. You don't just move on, you evolve. You don't just heal, you transform. You become everything they were too blind to see, too weak to appreciate, and too foolish to hold on to. And that's when their regret will hit like a wrecking ball. Imagine this. You go to a restaurant, order a meal, and after a few bites, you push it away thinking, I'll just get something better later. But then you see someone else take that same plate, savor every bite, enjoy every moment, and suddenly you realize you threw away something incredible. That's how they'll feel when they see you thriving, because nothing haunts a person more than realizing they lost something irreplaceable. They won't say it, but they'll see it. They'll see it in the way you glow differently because you're no longer weighed down by their emotional games. They'll see it in your smile because it's real now, not just something you faked while hoping for their attention. They'll see it in the way you carry yourself, stronger, confident, untouchable. And it will burn them alive, because when they left, they thought they took your worth with them. But instead, you became more than they ever imagined. This is where the tables turn. They go from feeling superior to feeling stupid. They go from being in control to out of reach. They go from expecting you to chase them to realizing they're the ones left behind. And their ego, it won't be able to handle it. They'll try to test the waters, a message, a like, a "How have you been?" Don't fall for it. This isn't about proving anything to them. It's about proving everything to yourself. You're no longer the same person who cried over their absence. You're no longer the same person who settled for breadcrumbs. You're no longer the same person who gave them power over your happiness. That version of you is dead. The new you is unreachable. And here's the best part. You're not doing this for them. You're not glowing up to make them jealous. You're not leveling up so they'll regret leaving. You're doing it because you finally see what they never did, your own worth. And that's what truly destroys them, because they don't just miss you, they miss the opportunity to be part of your life. And they know they will never get that chance again. Write this in the comments. I am becoming untouchable, because today you step into a version of yourself that they will always regret losing. And next, we talk about the final outcome, when they realize they destroyed themselves trying to play you. Stay tuned. This is where they truly break. 5. The outcome. When they realize they destroyed themselves, they never thought they'd lose you until you were already gone. You didn't have to fight. You didn't have to explain. You didn't have to beg them to stay, to love you, to appreciate you. You just walked away, and that was the most powerful move you could have ever made, because now they're the ones drowning. At first, they brushed it off. They told themselves you'd be back. They assumed you were just playing hard to get, just testing them. They underestimated you. But then the days passed. The silence stretched. Your absence grew heavier, and suddenly they weren't so sure anymore. Now they're replaying everything, every conversation, every moment they dismissed, ignored, or took for granted. And for the first time, they feel it. The same emptiness they once made you feel. Because this isn't just about missing you. This is about realizing they destroyed themselves trying to play you. See, they thought they had the upper hand. They thought they could push you away, pull you back, manipulate your emotions like a game of chess where they were always 5 steps ahead. But they miscalculated, because instead of chasing, instead of proving, instead of begging, you vanished. You stopped responding, stopped reacting, stopped showing up the way they expected. You cut off the supply they were feeding off, and now they're starving. They check their phone more than usual, hoping to see your name. They watch your social media, looking for any sign that you still care. They start to wonder, did they find someone else? Did they really move on? Were they stronger than I thought? And the truth hits them like a wrecking ball. They didn't lose you, they threw you away, and now they can't get you back. Let me tell you something. There is no revenge greater than becoming the one they can never have again. No argument, no screaming match, no long-winded text could ever hit harder than your silence. Because now they have to live with the consequences of their own choices. They have to sit with the fact that you were the best thing they never appreciated. They have to carry the weight of knowing they had something rare and let it slip through their fingers. They have to deal with the realization that they lost someone irreplaceable, and that's a pain they'll never admit but will always feel. But let's talk about you, because here's the real win. By the time they realize what they lost, you won't even want them back. You've leveled up. You've moved on. You've rebuilt yourself into someone they don't even recognize anymore. And that's the part that will haunt them the most, because they can't call the old you anymore. The version of you who would have forgiven them, who would have dropped everything to answer their texts, who would have taken them back without hesitation. That person no longer exists. They'll try. Oh, they'll try. They'll send the late-night "I miss you" texts. They'll test the waters with "Hey, how have you been?" messages. They'll find ways to make their presence known, hoping you'll slip back into old patterns. Don't. Because if they really valued you, you would have never had to leave in the first place. And now they have to live with the permanent loss of you. This is the outcome. This is what happens when you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop proving, and just walk away. They played games. They took you for granted. They thought they could have you forever, no matter how they treated you. And now, Now they're the ones left alone, regretting every move they made. Write it in the comments. They lost me forever, because today you stop looking back. Today you become the one they can never replace. And next, we take it even further. Now that they're drowning in regret, now that they're feeling the loss, we show you how to make sure they never stop missing you. Stay tuned. This is only the beginning. 6. The power shift. When you become the unreachable one, the cruelest thing you can do to someone who took you for granted is to show them they are no longer relevant. Once they were everything, the person you thought about constantly, the one whose words could shift your mood, whose attention felt like oxygen. You put them on a pedestal, treated them like they were irreplaceable, acted like they were some rare treasure you were lucky to have. But here's the truth. You were the treasure. They were just someone who didn't know how to hold on to it. And now the roles have reversed. They reach out. You don't respond. They try to check in with a weak, meaningless message just to see if they still have access to you. But they don't. They expect you to react the way you always did, to be excited to let them back in, to remind them they still matter. But they don't. And that's when reality slaps them in the face, because once upon a time, they were used to your attention. They had your loyalty, your time, your emotions, without ever having to earn it. They fed off the comfort of knowing that no matter what, you'd always be there. And now you've become unreachable. They check their phone more often. They wonder if you've changed your number, if you blocked them, if someone else has taken their place. They start scrolling through old messages, trying to find where they went wrong, desperately searching for the moment they lost you. But the truth is, they didn't lose you in one big moment. They lost you in all the little ones. They lost you every time they ignored your efforts. They lost you every time they made you question your worth. They lost you every time they made you feel like you had to fight for their attention. And now they know what it feels like to be on the other side. The hardest part for them isn't just missing you, it's knowing they can't get you back. Knowing that someone else will experience the love, the energy, the loyalty they took for granted. Knowing that you finally saw your own worth, and once you did, they became irrelevant. And make no mistake, this will destroy them, because people always want what they can't have. And nothing feeds the ego more than knowing someone is still emotionally attached. But when you disappear, detach, and destroy, you don't just make them miss you. You make them realize they lost you forever. And I know what you're thinking. What if they really changed? What if they come back truly wanting me now? No, they don't want you. They want the version of you that still wanted them. They want the comfort of knowing they still have a grip on your mind, your heart, your emotions. But they don't. And that's what will eat them alive. They will try. They will send those late-night texts hoping nostalgia will pull you back in. They will post things that are meant to trigger you, designed to make you react. They will test the waters, waiting for any sign that you still care. Ignore it. Your power is in your indifference. Your silence is the knife that cuts through their pride. Because when someone realizes they are no longer an option, they start feeling the rejection they once made you feel, and that's when the power shift is complete. They thought you'd never leave, thought you'd always be waiting, thought they could come and go as they pleased because you always let them. But now they see the truth. You were never their backup plan. You were never their second choice. You were the prize, and they lost it. So let them sit with that. Let them feel every ounce of regret, every wave of emptiness, every second of confusion. Let them stay up at night wondering how the hell they let you slip away. Write this in the comments. I am unreachable, because today you step into your power. Today you become the one they can never have again. And next, we take this even further. Now that they miss you, now that they know they lost you, we break down the final stage. the moment when they realize they destroyed themselves. Stay tuned. This is the end game. 7. Revenge without saying a word. The ultimate power move against someone who took you for granted is to show them how little they ever mattered. They expected you to be broken, to beg, to reach out, to prove that you still cared, that you were still holding on. They were waiting for the late-night message, the moment of weakness, the sign that they still had a grip on your emotions. But what happens when you give them nothing? What happens when you don't cry, don't call, don't even acknowledge their existence? That's when the real revenge begins. You don't need to block them. You don't need to call them out. You don't need to tell them you've moved on. In fact, the loudest statement you can make is never making one at all. Silence, distance, indifference. That's what will haunt them. That's what will make their ego crumble, because they were counting on your pain, and instead they're met with your absence. Imagine this. A performer steps onto a stage expecting a crowd, expecting applause, expecting to be seen and adored. But instead, nothing. No audience, no reaction, just an empty room. Suddenly, the performance means nothing. That's exactly what you do when you vanish from their world. You take away the attention they once fed off, the validation they once thrived on, the comfort of knowing they could always come back whenever they wanted. At first, they'll act like they don't care. They'll pretend it doesn't affect them. Maybe they'll post something to make it look like they're unbothered. Maybe they'll make it seem like they've moved on first. But deep down, they're watching, they're waiting, they're expecting you to crack. And the longer you don't, the deeper the void they feel. The best revenge is not proving you're over them. It's living in a way where it's obvious. No dramatic posts, no attempts to make them jealous, no staged happiness. Just a quiet, effortless glow-up that speaks for itself. You start taking care of yourself. You start laughing more, going out more, becoming the person they thought you'd never be without them. You don't need to rub it in their face. The simple fact that you are thriving without them is the biggest slap to their ego. Because now they don't just miss you, they miss the control. They miss the version of you who used to need them, who used to react, who used to break down at their absence. They start checking your profile more often. They start wondering if you're really as unbothered as you seem. And when they realize they can't find evidence of your suffering, that's when it eats them alive. You were supposed to be hurting. You were supposed to come back. You were supposed to still feel something, but now they're the only ones feeling it. Here's the truth. People don't regret losing you right away. They regret it when they realize you never looked back, when they see you laughing with someone new, when they see you glowing in your solitude, when they see that their absence didn't destroy you, it freed you. That's when they start questioning everything. Did I underestimate them? Did they ever really love me? Why do they seem happier? And this is where the tables turn. You see, they were comfortable knowing you were suffering. They felt powerful knowing they had an effect on you. But when that power is stripped away, they're the ones drowning in insecurity, because now you are no longer the person they left behind. You're untouchable. This is the kind of revenge that lingers. It doesn't happen overnight. It builds, it grows. And the best part, you don't have to do a damn thing. No messages, no explanations, no look at me now moments. Just pure, undeniable elevation. And that's what will shatter them the most, because you didn't get bitter. You got better. You didn't chase. You disappeared. You didn't cry over them. You rebuilt yourself without them. And now they're the ones haunted by what they lost. Write this in the comments. My glow-up is my revenge, because today you don't just move on, you rise. And next, we go even deeper. Now that they feel the weight of your absence, we break it down to the final phase. The moment they fully realize they lost something they will never get back. Stay tuned. This is where the regret sets in. 8. When they come back, the door stays closed. The past calls you for one reason, to see if you're still weak enough to answer. And they always come back. Always. Maybe it takes a few weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. But at some point, when they least expect it, reality will hit them like a freight train. They lost something irreplaceable. And that's when they crawl back, knocking at the same door they once slammed in your face. At first, it's subtle. A like on your post, a random view on your story. Maybe they pop up in your DMS with a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" as if nothing ever happened. But don't be fooled. This isn't about you. It's about them, about their pride, about their ego realizing that the person they once took for granted is no longer waiting. You see, they thought you'd always be there, thought they could disappear, play games, treat you like an option, and still come back whenever they felt like it. They assumed time would make you soft, that nostalgia would make you weak, that enough silence would have you craving their voice again. But now the door stays closed, because here's what they don't realize. You are no longer the person they left behind. The version of you who cried over them, gone. The version of you who waited for them, no longer exists. The version of you who would have answered right away, dead. And now they have to live with that. They come back thinking they still have a hold on you. They send that message thinking they still have access. But when they get nothing, that's when they feel it. The gut-wrenching realization that you actually moved on, and it terrifies them. Because here's the truth. They don't come back because they love you. They don't come back because they've changed. They come back because they miss who they were when you loved them. They miss the validation, the comfort, the security of knowing that no matter how badly they treated you, you would always be there. But the moment they realize you're not, that's when their ego shatters. They'll try to act like it's casual, like they're just checking in, but behind that message is panic, desperation disguised as nonchalance. They were counting on you still caring, still feeling something, still being the same person who once bent over backward for them. But now they get nothing, no response, no reaction, no proof that their presence even matters anymore. And that's what will haunt them, because closure, they don't get that anymore. They forfeited their right to explanations the moment they treated you like an afterthought. They lost the privilege of your energy the second they made you question your worth. And now they have to sit in the same silence they once left you in. You might be tempted to respond, to give them a taste of their own medicine, to show them how much better you are now. But don't. That's exactly what they want, because the second you respond, even if it's just to reject them, you feed their ego. You give them proof that they still affect you, that even after all this time, they still have a place in your mind. But silence? Silence is lethal. They expected anger. They expected resistance, maybe even insults. But what they never expected was indifference. And that's when they start spiraling, because if you're not angry, if you're not bitter, if you're not even interested in rejecting them, then that means you truly don't care. And nothing will ever destroy their pride more than knowing that they could come back with open arms and you wouldn't even flinch. This is your final test, the moment where you decide whether you truly won or if you let them slip back in, only to run you through the same cycle all over again. Because let's be real, they haven't changed. If they respected you, they wouldn't have risked losing you in the first place. If they truly saw your worth, they wouldn't have treated you like an option. But now they're scared. Scared that someone else has replaced them. Scared that you finally see them for what they are. Scared that they're no longer the main character in your story. And they should be, because the moment they walked away, they wrote themselves out of your life. And you? You've been too busy thriving to even notice. So when they come knocking, when that message pops up, when they try to creep their way back in, you do nothing. You don't entertain. You don't explain. You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they still hold space in your world, because they don't. They once had a version of you that loved them beyond reason, but that version of you no longer exists. And now, they have to live with the fact that they destroyed something they can never get back. Write this in the comments. The door stays closed, because today you don't just move on, you lock them out for good. And that's it. You won. Not by arguing, not by proving your worth, but by walking away and never looking back. They thought they could play with you forever, but now they're the ones feeling the emptiness. So if this hit home, if you're ready to keep that door locked for good, hit that like button, subscribe for more raw truth and power moves, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your silence is their biggest lesson. Let them learn it the hard way. Stay strong, stay untouchable, and I'll see you in the next one.